We can't have some winners without some losers. I'm going through my winners and losers of barbecue products for 2021. Hey, I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue, and I've scratched the surface on this in a couple of videos, but you guys have asked, James, can you pull everything into one video just to make it a little bit easier to find in case I missed that video? So that's what we're gonna do today. I've bought and tried a lot of products over the last year, and we definitely have some that are hands down winners, and I'd not hesitate for a second to recommend them to friends or family. And we got a couple, they're not bad products, they're just not things that I find myself reaching for or using enough to be worth the money for me. And so I'm gonna put those in the loser category. So you don't have to go searching around, it's all gonna be into chapters down below. We'll go through our winners, through our losers, and if you got a little bit of extra holiday spending money at the end of it, maybe it helps inform your decision as well. So without further ado, let's get into our winners for 2021 when it comes to barbecue products and accessories. So first up in our winners are going to be some temperature gauges. Now these are two different products, but you can't sort of have one without the other, and I get asked this all the time, so I'm going to group them together so I can explain a little bit of the benefits of each. Now I use my temperature probes for different tools, different tasks, and so I'm going to use an analogy here like golfing. So if we were to go golfing, if you were to get off the tee block, you might want a driver, and when you're on the green doing some of that fine finishing work, that's where you don't want your driver, you want something like a putter. And I approach my temperature gauges a little bit like this as well. So for my entire cook, when I want, a brisket could be on 17, 18 hours, I want to be able to track it remotely, see what's going on, or if I'm cooking something on the rotisserie, I want to add notes and data. This is where my meter probe has been a game changer for me. And ever since the app got updated where you can take those notes, save them to the cloud, it's just helped accelerate making notes of what's worked really well and maybe what didn't work so well. So I have that as a reference point for future cooks. And I upgraded mid-year to the meter block from the meter plus, and I absolutely love it. So since that's something that I've added this year, I'm going to give a nod to the meter block specifically, since that's what I got new this year. And now that there's a new model, which is the block with just two probes for less money, there's even sort of a new product for 2021 that fits in the lineup. The second in the winning category on the temperature probe is going to be my Thermapen IR. Now I already had two MK4 Thermapens and the IR is based off of that, so why add a third of the same thing? And that's because the IR combines the same great temperature probe accuracy, but it also adds infrared capability. Now I mentioned the golf analogy earlier. If the meter is the driver and getting us really close to the pin, the Thermapen, or any Thermapen, but specifically the one I love most here, the IR, is that fine touch around the green where you want really go by feel. So if you're probing a brisket in different spots, you want to make sure that you're getting that jar of peanut butter consistency and feel. That is the only way that I've been able to get that accurately, along with some great information, including the IR gun. So if I want to know if my soapstone's up to temperature or what my grill is running at, that's just, again, giving me more information and helping adjust my game plan. You might think, okay, grill's up to temperature and I'm ready to sear, and you throw on your steak, you're not getting a sear, it sticks, or it's starting to cook and get brown. That might be because you just threw on your soapstone and it wasn't fully up to temperature. And so things like the Thermapen IR just help, again, equip us with more information and just improve that experience so there's less guesswork to get the same great results between cooks. So that's our first set of winners for 2021. Let's go on to our next winner. Okay, for our next winner in 2021. Now, you'd wish this goes without saying, but sadly it's not always the case. So I want to mention this before we get too much further. Today's video is not sponsored, and even if it was sponsored, you cannot buy your way onto this list. There are no honorable mentions that people are paying for. This is purely, again, my opinion from being a consumer and using the products. And if and where there are any affiliations, like when I've done my review of our next winner here, which is Dow Strong Knives, I've shared my earnings. When I did that video from January to November, when that video came out, I'd made something like 31 bucks and 70 cents at the time of that recording. And so again, I don't think these affiliations have anything to do with my recommendation of the products, but the reason I added my Dow Strong Shogun chef knife this year is I just absolutely fell in love with the cleaver and the fillet knife, and then later the brisket knife. And so now I've added even a shucking knife for doing some oysters in an upcoming video. So I can't wait to share that with you, but our next winner here has been Dow Strong Knives. It's been a long time, and if you haven't seen that video, I don't want to spoil it. Or if you have seen the video, I don't want to repeat it, but I've had some terrible luck getting some equipment that I absolutely trust and love using. A knife that's beautiful, stays sharp, it's easy to hold, and it's really well made, and it's backed by a lifetime guarantee and warranty, along with some great customer service. So there's plenty of other reasons I love my Dow Strong knives, and I've got a couple videos on that if you want to check it out, but definitely a winner for 2021. Let's move into our next winner. Okay, our next winner is no stranger to the channel. You've seen the Grill Blazer grill gun before. But new for 2021 is the sous vide gun. So I've had so much fun with the Grill Blazer grill gun, I got its little brother. Now, if you haven't heard the specs, the big one's about 400,000 BTU. I think this is about 240,000 BTU. It's still got, you know, let me, before I set the house on fire, set that down. So it's still got plenty of power for lighting your coals. I've done this a few videos where I've started my grill completely, but the added benefit here is that it comes with this diffuser plate. So if you happen to be in a pinch and you need to sear your steak, this is far more manageable for searing your steak. So if you had a Joe Jr., or you know, your solo stove or something like that, you wanted to take it with you and be very, very portable, and you like to sear with a grill gun and you just want that quick sear and get it done nice and quick, or you're melting cheese or things like that on sandwiches or creme brulee or something like that, I would look at the sous vide gun. If you have you know, a classic Joe, Big Joe, offset, a solo stove, or anything like that where you maybe want to be able to reach down and get into the fire, as well as have a little bit more distance so that, you know, you're not getting hit with any of that fire that's coming out of whatever it is you may be lighting, I would go for the big guy. And if you're fortunate or able enough to buy both, there is a package deal where I think they add in, you know, something like 12-15% extra discount for buying them together, versus doing what I did and a year later add the second one and you don't get that extra savings. All right, on to our next winner. Okay, down to our last two before we get into the losers for 2021, but you see it there behind me, not using it today since I'm under the structure of the pergola, but that's got to be the solo stove. So I got this just as a smokeless fire pit. If you've heard the story before, you know, I'll try and go very quick, but if you haven't heard the story, we built an outdoor fire pit area using live fire, but this was throwing a little bit too much smoke to be, you know, comfortable for our immediate neighbors in the area. And so we're in an area where, you know, if you're not getting any complaints, you're fine. If there's a complaint, you have to shut that down. So our beautiful fire structure eventually had to be converted to gas. I was just missing the ambience, the fun, the smell, the you know, cooking or anything like that that goes with a live fire. And so early, kind of mid-year, we added the solo stove and just been having a ton of fun playing with this. So it's completely safe on a wood deck with the riser. And I've used this from everything from just staying warm to when I'm doing projects out in the front yard, backyard, or even beside my grills cooking in a few videos as something that's keep me warm, or I've even been able to cook on it. So I've done, you know, fun little experiments like trying to turn it into a Kamado and put a cast iron dome on it and cooked a pulled pork, a steak, which was fantastic. And so the list kind of goes on here. It's very, very versatile. It is built incredibly well. And yes, sure, outside of like lighting it and turning it off where you get a little bit of smoke, it is remarkable how little to no smoke there is. Often you see it right here. It's right beside the house, and my wife or I will come outside when it's burning and you can't even tell it's burning once it's going. So I'm going to go ahead and add the solo stove to this year's list of winners. Let's get on to our last one for 2021. All right, our last one, I don't know why this one took me so long to appreciate, but that is drip pans. And so I've got a couple different sizes for smokeware, but the punchline here is if you have a Joe Jr., get the 10-inch size, it fits in there. If you have the classic Joe or the Big Joe, I would go straight for the 14-inch one, and optional the 12-inch size, which sort of fits in the middle. They fit all grills, but I would either do the big one or the small one. So SmokeWare has a couple of products that I've used for over a decade and love. Things like that, you know, rain cap, which I had all the way back on my Big Green Eggs when I still use those, to even now the new and improved, you know, side shelves that they offer for either Classic Joe or they fit in the Kettle Joe. The same one fits great. But if there's one that I use most often, and it's always a question you guys ask, how do I keep my slow roller clean? It is the drip pan. And so what I normally used to do is just start to cook, and your slow roller would get saturated with, you know, any fat drippings and things like that, and it would sort of run down the side and then in behind the firebox. You don't even really see it's there. The next time you fire up your grill, go for a high heat cook and all of a sudden your grill's billowing white smoke. And I had one example where it took over 40 minutes to clear that smoke out before I could get on cooking. And so what I do now to keep my slow roller clean is a big step forward with a little bit of preventative maintenance by adding a drip tray. This catches, 75, 80, 90% of whatever might fall onto the slow roller. And then when I'm done my cook, I turn the heat up to 400 degrees. Remember, the slow roller's got a maximum temperature rating of 500 degrees, and I just let that burn off any of that little bit of remaining fat. And this has been a game changer at helping keep the slow roller clean, as well as just making sure the next time I want to go use my grill, I'm not waiting for a bunch of white smoke. And since this is not, tin foil or anything like that, it's not melting and or causing anything that we don't want on our food, and they're pretty easy to keep clean. So this one, you can see I put a little bit of elbow grease into it, still looks pretty good. So that's it for our winners. Let's move into what I think everybody's waiting to find out as well, some of our losers for 2021. Our first product that I put in the loser category for 2021 is going to be my Inkbird BBQ 4T. It took me a long time even just to remember the name of this product, and it is a good product. It works really well. So we get these 4 different probes that you can leave this base station beside your grill, and it connects to wireless, and you can get this information on your phone. But the reason that I don't use this is a couple reasons. One, there is never a good way to keep these wires from turning into a knotted mess. It's a lot like when you used to have wired headphones. You reach in and somehow by magic you put them in nicely, they come out a knot and a mess. The same is true with these probes. I'm always was fussing with them to get it. The second reason I don't like it is the app is it's terrible. It's not very intuitive, easy to use. And ever since I got my meter block, which now comes with the same 4 probes, I used to have just the plus, so I had 1 probe, and I found myself wanting, more information if I was doing multiple steaks or wanting to record temperatures in different parts of my grill. And so whether it's the app, the ease of use, the interface, the ability to take notes and record them in the app, or now having multiple probes where I can get information whether I'm cooking food or if I just want information on my grill, what I normally do is I just take one of these out, stick them in a potato if I'm using it for just an ambient sensor. And I have not used this ever since I added my block. So I'm going to put the Inkbird BBQ 4T, even though it's just fine. It doesn't hold a candle to the experience that I'm used to now with meter, and it has been relegated in the drawer until today when I pulled it out for today's video. On to our next loser. Okay, our next 2 losers I'm going to group together because they both share their fate or their demise to one product. And so if you've seen some of my favorite accessories video, the soapstone, the Joe Tisserie, I put tied for first place. And the soapstone has been a widow maker of some grill accessories. And so the first one, which I no longer even have to show you, is a salt block. I was really excited to get this, and it came with a bunch of problems, whether the first time I heated it up, it cracked and exploded, to it was hard to get hot enough to get a good sear, let alone the cleaning and maintenance. So the soapstone just absolutely sort of destroyed the use of that product. And same with these. I used to buy these all the time. These are cedar planks for grilling some salmon. But again, now that I have the soapstone, I just never find myself going to the hassle of getting these out, soaking them overnight for a single or maybe 2-time use type product, and then you're looking to add more of that. Whereas the soapstone, again, I can oil it, season it however I want, get it nice and clean, get a good sear, build a nice crust on salmon, scallops, or anything like I might be doing with that, and I just don't buy these anymore. So I think the last one I bought just barely made it because I looked at my Amazon history. This was in January of 2021, so it does make the list, and this is the exact one, and I haven't opened it since the soapstone has completely taken over. So that covers 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's move into our next loser. This next one, the wound is still fresh, and I've thought several times I've covered it in terms of announcing the new grill studio, to it's broken, to it's fixed, to it broke again, it's fixed. I thought this was all behind me, but once again, the NatureCast tables that I have holding up my Joes aren't fully supporting, and it's causing the granite to crack, or at least that appears to be what the issue is. We'll have to get everything out and see exactly what's going on. So far they've been a really good company to work with. They're not fighting any of these issues, but it has been a huge inconvenience in terms of getting the grills out, get the granite out. Both pieces of granite now need to be replaced again, and make sure that those supports are working as they're intended. Again, I really am happy with the outdoor space. The fact that I'm sheltered from snow and rain and can continue chatting with you without the camera getting absolutely drenched or covered in snow is an absolute blessing. I love how it looks, and I do like the product. But the fact that, it's not really purpose designed for a Kamado was really frustrating. This caused a lot of headache back and forth in the design process. And the fact that it was supposed to be done in April or May of this year, here we are at the very end of the year, December, and once again, we're gonna have to completely get the Joes out of position, back in their carts, and make sense of what's going on here. So I won't bore you again with those details, just another update of the saga of the grill table or the grill studio for 2021. And so right now, just because the wound is fresh, a little bit of irritation with the sort of the whole design process and NatureCast getting this figured out. Again, they are fixing it again, but this has been frustrating. So I'm going to add this to my losers list for 2021 because right now it's infuriating. All right, on to our next loser. Okay, our last set of losers for 2021, and this one is a big one. It actually probably warrants its own video in the new year. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that happen. But that is specialty rubs and spices. And this has been one that's been sort of irritating or building up frustration over time. You go to your favorite restaurant, it's not, hey, what did the chef put on that? Did they put, this particular brand rub or that rub? It's all about sort of balancing the flavors. And so the fact that the price for these rubs continues to escalate here, I've got some $14, $15, $20, and you get through a couple meals and you're needing to replenish it. That's frustrating, financially. But the other thing that's frustrating is that these don't work really well with what I love to do, which is salt dry brining. This is a game changer when it comes to unlocking extra juiciness and flavor, as well as helping retain more moisture throughout your overall cook. And so many of these rubs, first ingredient here, salt, first ingredient, salt, first ingredient, salt, first ingredient, salt. You get the idea. I don't need to go through everything spread out in front of me, but because every single one of these to varying degrees has extra sodium, if you try dry brining ahead of time and then add this, your food will be way too salty. And so whether it's just, again, your individual flavor palettes or things like that, you can't discern that many flavors. You start looking at a list on some of these rubs that go about 15 ingredients deep. My palate is not sophisticated enough to enhance that. And the fact that it comes with a big price tag, you only get, a couple cooks out of them, and the fact that it goes against being able to dry brine, I find myself using these pre-bought rubs less and less and less, and instead just making up some more of my homemade rub that I can use either as a dry brining agent and or one with no salt that I can add if I just chose to dry brine with maybe something only like Diamond Crystal Kosher salt the day ahead of time or something like that. Let me know, again, if you'd like to see even more on that. I won't bemoan the point to here, but I'm going to say the specialty rubs, you can see many still unopened, like this one here, Hardcore Carnivore Black, and a few others I bought this year and haven't even used just because, again, they don't fit with how I find to get the best result. And unless I'm really in a pinch, they don't really add anything that I'm not able to make myself for a fraction of the cost. So there you go. That's it for this year's winners and losers. Did I get it right? Anything I'm missing or you disagree with, you'd sort of switch places from winner to loser or vice versa. Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you're thinking, as well as maybe anything that I missed that you bought this year. And you could share that as some feedback for others, for the people who are reading the comments. They could learn from our mistakes, your mistakes as well. That's it for today, though. I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue signing off. And remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.